Show y'all what's up with this Audi, man. Got both of the this is like somewhat of a flex plate adapter that goes on the back of the motor. That's the original one. On the original motor, that's the one that was on the motor we're replacing it with. These are bolts for the clutch. I like to put bolts in a bag so you're not looking for them. Like, oh, I wonder where the clutch bolts are. You can see how bad that clutch was. It was definitely slipping and trying to grab, and yeah, it was done. So we will be replacing all that. He got rid of the catalytic converter here and put a downpipe on it. So I still have to take this whole turbo off and put it on the other motor. Show you guys what we did over here. We're going to be replacing the motor mounts. They should be arriving tomorrow. As I showed you before, they're pretty cracked. So, and that one was the one on this side, and it wasn't that bad. This one was a lot worse. Anyways, I got the transmission all cleaned up. I went heavy on it and cleaned it all over. Nice and clean everywhere underneath. See how clean it is all the way through. Got the inside, got the fork installed, got the new throwout bearing installed. Got this bell housing all cleaned up. This is your slave, where it'll push and come out. And that's your, there it goes. That's your throwout bearing, where it'll press against the pressure plate on the clutch. And to get that clutch out, well, it's a dual mass flywheel, and it goes bolted up to the clutch and then sits in there, and then you have this half shaft that, let's see if I can try to show y'all what I'm talking about. So you have that half shaft that comes in here, and then the splines here spline into the other side there, and that's how you get the front wheel drive for the quattro system. And it'll go inside there. Yes, you do have a seal in here, but it's not one we're gonna attempt to replace. It looks good. I'll put a tiny bit of lube on that just to not hurt it when I shove the half shaft back in it. Clean all that up and slide that in, and it goes in through that hole right there. It does have a bearing over here. Oh, this will get cleaned up. This bearing looks good. Just, it's the only thing I forgot to clean was the damn half shaft. But it'll sit across here, and then the clutch will be inside. So to get the clutch pack out, you have to push this out. And that's why the motor mounts had to come out anyways. But what we did was remove the CV axle from there. And I'll show you better through here. I left it in here because this looked very rusty, crusty inside of here, and this 17mm Allen I don't have on hand right now, so I would have had to go buy one. Let me show you guys through the hole right here. You see where that half shaft goes all the way through? And it's kind of a bear to get it to come out through here, because all this is in the way. And this bottom bone right here had to come out because it was hitting against the back of this. And actually it goes in that position like that. It was hitting against the back of this right here. And this will, let's see if I can one hand show you. This will bolt there, right? And then the bottom goes there, right? And then this backside has the bolts for the this is your, oh, it's a little stiff, but that's your sway bar link. So we just pushed it out of the way like that. We took that guy off of there, and that gave just enough room to be able to move the strut and move it just enough to slide that half shaft out through here. And if you don't get that half shaft out, you ain't getting that clutch out. So all that had to come apart. Oh, I keep all my bolts and my sockets there, easy to get back to. And I'm ready to put it back in. I jacked this obviously up to get to it. The fender cover, I just kind of tucked it out of the way as I was working on it. It's real important to get yourself a can of penetration fluid. I use PB Blast, we call it. Blasting since 1957. Okay, so there's that. I'll show you the clutch. How about that? This is an expensive clutch from Clutch Masters. It comes with an alignment tool, obviously, that I'll be using to put it in. I think this is like a stage 3. So it has like a little Clutch Master sticker on there. And they paint them white. Precision balanced can of white spray paint. This is your old throwout bearing that was on there. It really wasn't in the worst condition. It wasn't too bad actually. But it came with a new one, so we'll use the new one. Just this clutch, this alignment tool, that throwout bearing, right? Clutch disc, stage 3, was like $1,000 from Clutch Masters. Pretty pricey crap, y'all. Not cheap clutch by any means. This car has the front wide mount intercooler, all the piping. You can't see it right now. It's under there. So yeah, we gotta obviously still gotta do this turbo side. We got to I removed the injectors. He came and gave me a hand, and we removed these injectors because they're different injectors. This is a 2015 motor, that's a 2010 motor. Why did we go with a 2015? Because it's easier to find a 2015 with less mileage. This thing has like 17,000 miles on it, believe it or not. And this is a 2010 with 100-something thousand miles on it. So the intake manifold on these is aluminum. It's a different intake manifold. And this is just stripping everything off of this side of the motor. And I'm doing this side first, and then I'm pretty much, I got everything off here, and then I'm going to take everything off of here. I'm going to take everything off that you see here and pretty much transferred over here. So I'm running with the plastic intake and everything, or else the harness and a lot of other stuff is going to have to be modified. Different injectors, the tune will have to change, the computer won't run right, too much stuff going on. So it's easier to just boop, 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 just like that. Now, the long block, for those of you that don't understand, long block is just pretty much head and bottom end, right? The long block is the same from this one to that one. Now, this motor took a hit and the front cover broke here. These things happen. They fall off the forklift, stuff like that. They shove another motor in next to this one too close, dumb shit like that. So this cover will get replaced for this cover. That's not broken, right? So he needs to go get the gasket for this front timing cover. And he needs to go get a few other things. The gasket for here is what's holding us up. This is the oil filter, oil cooler, tensioner, pulleys, housing. So this housing, as you can see, he took the gasket with him. It has the oil filter housing to engine block. Has that gasket there, and they're notorious for leaking. So why not do it now while it's out, you know? And then the one that was originally on it, on the 2015 motor, show you over here, was different. That's the seal, see it? And it was different, so we had to replace it. It has different oil temp, oil pressure sensors in different locations. It doesn't have a bolt here for the, let me put it side by side so you can see. I think it's pretty empty. I just cleaned my garage floor, so I didn't want it to leak anything out. I don't know, there's mosquitoes flying in my face. You can see the differences. So, see this bracket right here with this bolt? It's not there. You have the two bolts here and no little bolt for this mounting bracket. It's different down here too, where the power steering, everything, the AC bolts up. It's just different. It's different in many ways. The sensors up here, you only got one on this one, you got two up there. The oil coolers are the same, and those oil coolers ain't cheap. He'll probably keep that as a backup in case he ever needs one. But yeah, so these brackets have to be swapped out. A lot of things have to be swapped. We're pretty much taking accessories and parts from the 2015 and 2010 motor and putting it on the 2015 long block. But the long block is a 2015, very low mileage. So right now we're waiting for that seal. You see that little spot of oil? And I just washed my floor. Clean that when I'm done with the video. Just pressure wash my floor. So it may look dirty to you, but it's super clean to me compared to how it was. Anyway, so I'm waiting for this seal. He's going to get that seal. Then with that seal, we can put this housing, the 2010 housing, on the 2015 motor. Boom, boom. We're going to stick with the water pump because water pump and thermostat seem fine. Thermostat's in here. There's your water pump inlet. It's an electric water pump. So this water pump seems to be fine. We're just going to run with it because he doesn't want to get into the gaskets and everything involved in removing that. So that's going to stay. We checked this the same as the one on this motor. If you look over here, you see it? It's the same water pump. This one just has all the hoses and all the plumbing attached. And then it has your electric assist water pump that needs to bolt to that bracket that I showed you. And on this motor, they relocated it somewhere over here. And on the 2010 motor, it's on the oil cooler bracket over here. So there's differences, obviously. We're going to get all that figured out. On the intake side, the next step is get that seal, put this oil filter housing on right here. And then we can take, once the oil filter housing is on, then we can take that intake manifold, the fuel injectors and everything. Like I said, we already removed them from here. It's direct port fuel injectors. And we can install those directly on and put everything on the intake side. And then once everything on the intake side is done, then we can come over here and focus on this exhaust side and take everything from the turbo side and install it. All your oil feed lines and everything for the turbo side. These junkyards always mark their blocks so that you know what's going on. Now this motor, they put an arrow here because it has took a little hit right here too. See, this should be like that. And that's why that little arrow's pointing there. But that's not going to affect anything. It's a really low mileage motor. On the top, we're going to keep coils, PCV valve, everything the way it is for now. But he's keeping this motor. It's not a core that he has to return. So if he needs them, he'll be able to take parts. He'll be able to take parts off of them. See, this is the bolt right here that snapped off. And that bolt is the bottom bolt for the bracket, motor mount bracket that holds the starter. So we're going to see how that works out. Should still be able to work. It just took a little chunk out of it, but there's still some threads on the other one. Put a little washer gap to fill in the gap on the back, a couple washers or whatever, and be able to use that other motor. These motors ain't cheap, y'all. I normally don't talk about prices, but these 2.0 turbo motors are not cheap on these Audis. You pay for them, trust me. I normally don't name prices, but this time I'm going to do it just to give y'all a ballpark, not including labor or any gaskets or anything like that. Just the motor from the junkyard was $2 grand. And we did the research on what it would cost to rebuild this motor, because this motor right now, what it's doing is piston ring blow by. It's smoking bad out the exhaust pipe. So it's still running, but it was low on power and it had some piston ring blow by. It's there, if you read on the forums, it's actually common in these things when they get higher up in mileage. That's why instead of putting another 2010, all the motors we were looking up were higher mileage. We went to a 2015 long block with much lower mileage, 17,000 miles on that car. According to the paperwork we got on that motor. I don't know if he verified the VIN on that, but according to what they said, 17K. So I was pretty shocked to hear that. But $2 grand for that. And when we did the research on what it would cost to actually get piston rings and reseal this motor and pretty much rebuild it, you end up spending more rebuilding that, from pistons, bearings, I mean, all the internals, and then everything else that is involved in doing the job, than you would for just paying $2 grand for that motor with much less miles, drop it in and go. So pretty much the motor's going to be a 2015. You know, there's other gaskets you're going to buy. This is it's a Clutch Master sticker. This is your intake gasket, your rear main seal, and like I said, there's a few other O-rings he's going to get. If you're going to work on these cars, you're going to definitely need a tool set, a torque set with the 12 points and the center hole punch. So you can order yourself that tool set if you're planning to do this, because the majority of these bolts are like that. Show you. They're either like this or like that. So anyways, I don't want to bore y'all too much with the video, but that's pretty much just what we're doing. This video is not intended to give somebody a detailed step-by-step guide on how to do this, because honestly, this is not a job that I recommend the regular do-it-yourselfer take on at home. This is a pretty big job. I do a lot of work, and this is probably the biggest job I've taken on all year, without a doubt. But it's a lot to it. This ain't a Honda Civic, you know, this is an Audi Quattro Turbo. And then it's not just like, oh, we got a 2010 and it's just take that one out and put this one in exactly the way it came from the junkyard, just drop it right in the hole. You don't have to swap parts back and forth. No, it wasn't like that. So we're playing with Legos here, you know, piecing pieces from that to over here. Before we even get to drop it in, we're obviously doing the clutch, motor mounts, other stuff like that. The starter is very important to do, y'all, while you have this thing out. It sits up under the motor mount bracket. I talked about that in the other video. You know, you're gonna have the whole front end off on this thing. You know, you're gonna yank the motor off. Might as well do a starter. But yeah, the important thing is the rear main seal was leaking. I can't even stress how important the rear main seal is. For those of you that don't know what the rear main seal is, there it is. It comes as this whole assembly on bolts here. This is your crank. This is your rear main seal. It seals around that's your high pressure seal. I have the new one here to give you a visual of what it looks like off. I wasn't going to take it out the bag because I'm trying to make the video as short as possible. Bear with me, I know I put the phone down, but I only have two hands, y'all. Okay, so here's the little piece of paperwork it comes with. Yes, Volkswagen is the same as Audi, don't freak out. These 2.0s going Jettas and Passats and all kind of stuff. So this is the rear main seal. And we'll be replacing it. You can be sure of that. It won't go on this motor because this motor ain't going back in the car. And that's backwards, actually. It goes this way. Oh, let me squat down so y'all could see better. So that's the rear main seal. And it's going to go on the new motor that's going in over here. So that rear main seal in there will be coming out, and this one will be going in. Only 17,000 miles, excuse me, on that motor. You would say, why do it, right? Well, better safe than sorry. It's a lot of work. To replace that seal later, you got to do all this. You got to yank that out. So why not dot the I's, cross your T's, and make sure that before you drop this new motor in, that you got all your seals and everything taken care of. Anyways, there's a lot going on. There's a lot I could talk about. Take opportunity when you got this apart, if you're anything like me, and clean everything. I clean that power steering pump. I clean that AC compressor. I clean that starter. I mean, I cleaned everything. And this thing would not stay up. I'm gonna have to zip tie it up because I don't like it hanging down like that. But it's just got a little kink in the hose up here while it's hanging, but it'll be fine. I'll end up zip tying it up. I just wanted it out of the way to be able to show you the half shaft that has to come out. I could have removed it from there when I was going to remove it, but I didn't want this pipe in the way. I knew I wanted to clean the transmission and all that, so I decided to disconnect it from the bottom. That was the reason, but you can disconnect that from pretty much wherever you want, the bottom or further up. Yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything on this video. We'll make another video with everything going back inside of the car, more entertaining video with everything going back together. Just wanted to document, again, like I said, the whole point in making these videos is to legitimately prove the work that's being done. So someday in the future, people say, oh, well, how do we know you really replaced that engine? Well, here's a video, watch. So, you know, we're legitimately documenting what was done. That engine came out, this engine went in, all this was swapped, all this was done. It was uploaded on this date during the Corona quarantine time. It was done 2020, end of April. So that will permanently be there. You know, you can't deny video. You can't argue against video. So that's the main purpose of this. And if some other mechanic that knows what they're doing watches it and is thinking about taking on this job, or maybe not even a mechanic that knows what he's doing, just a regular person that is deciding, is that something I want to do? I'm pretty handy with a wrench. Well, think about it, because it is not your everyday basic little 4-cylinder swap. I know it's a 4-cylinder, but there's a lot more to it. You know, people were saying, oh, how do you remember how to put all this back together? And, you know, you get a couple days downtime while you're waiting for parts and this, that, and the other. Because we thought we had all the parts we needed. And you really don't know what you need until you've taken it apart. And then you know what you need. But I just been doing this a long time. I got very good memory for how things go. I take these cars apart on a daily. But the average person would really be lost putting this back together. So it's just something for you to consider. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. I'm going to check out of here until the next one, where you'll see a bunch of cool stuff attached to the new engine. Maybe the new engine getting bolted in, something like that. We'll do another video like that. And then another video of it running and driving, running like a brand new car again with no smoke blowing out the exhaust. Thanks for watching. God bless y'all. Stay safe, have fun, stay productive during the quarantine. Peace out.